This is TWiT.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888, ask Leo, the phone number. And look, my goodness, who's here? Scott Wilkinson, home theater geek. He's our home theater guru. His podcast, twit.tv/HTG. He also writes for the AVS Forum. He's editor-in-chief over there. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Leo.
Did you go to the movies?
I did. I was just dancing just now, just like Baby Groot.
Groot. Is Baby Groot in the new one? Wait a minute, no spoilers.
Oh, no, I'm not going to give you any spoilers.
Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I have to say, I really enjoyed it.
Now, did you like the first one?
I did. You know, it's so funny because when it first came out, which was 2014 already, can you believe it's been that long?
Wow.
I didn't jump to see it. I thought, a wisecracking raccoon and a talking tree? Come on.
It was really good. I liked it.
But then Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was being released in Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. And so I said, okay, I got to go see that. And I better look at the first one. I better watch the first one before I go. And boy, am I glad I did. Man, there's a lot of plot points in the second one that derive from the first one. So if you're going to go see it, and I do recommend it, it's really funny. It's just funny. See the first one first. It's important. Otherwise, you'll be a little confused, I think.
Yeah.
So I won't give you any spoilers, but I will say there are some interesting technical aspects to this. First of all, it is in, like I said, Dolby Vision, high dynamic range, Dolby Atmos, immersive sound in Dolby Cinema theaters, of which there are, I think, 60 around the U.S. now. And wow, does it look good. I mean, it really looks fantastic. The colors are just amazing.
What are they using? Is it DLP or?
Yeah, the projector system is DLP, digital light processing. And in fact, they have two projectors, and the light source is our red, green, and blue lasers.
Lasers.
Lasers. Yes.
So this is probably the best projection system out right now.
I believe it is. In my opinion, it certainly is. Now, it's in 2D. If you go to IMAX or other theaters, you'll see it in 3D. And there are some shots in this movie that are clearly intended for 3D. You know, a spaceship flying right at you, that kind of thing. But the Dolby Vision high dynamic range is so good. And with that deep, deep black and bright whites, it takes on a dimensionality that I don't miss 3D at all. Yeah. And I'm sure you wouldn't either.
No, I'm not a fan because it's dimmer and you have to wear those silly glasses.
Exactly.
I just find it a little uncomfortable. And I think good 2D can be very immersive. I like the idea that HDR might really make it more immersive.
Oh, seriously more immersive.
In a way that doesn't distract. 3D so often distracts.
Exactly
good.
So.
Good.
Now, interestingly, they shot this movie on digital cameras. It was not on film. It was with this company called Red.
Yeah.
And they shot it at 8K. 8K resolution. That's not what they presented it at, but they captured it at 8K. And according to IMDb, which is this website that has all the, virtually every movie ever made with all this technical specs and everything, they say that an element of the process called the digital intermediate, or DI, was in 4K. And so I'm suspecting that the final file that they delivered to the theater to play was in 4K.
That's good enough. I mean, you're not sitting right up in front
of
the screen. You don't.
Plenty good enough. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it just looked phenomenal. And the Dolby Atmos sound, I'm sure it's no spoiler to say that popular music from the 80s plays an important part in both of these movies.
Yes.
The awesome mixtape. And all of those great songs that we remember from the 80s are mixed way out into the room on the surrounds and the overheads. It just surrounds you with these songs that those of us of a certain age are very familiar with. So that's really good. And the high dynamic range is great. There was one problem I must mention at my local Dolby Cinema. I couldn't believe it. Once the movie started, I noticed there was some light spill on the screen.
What? No, that means there's like a little halo around the edge.
Well, yeah, or even on the screen itself. It turns out, I looked back towards the projection booth. Someone had left the overhead light on in the projection booth.
Did you go knock on the door?
No, I didn't. Because
come on, you go pound on the door and you say, you know who I am?
Hey,
I am Scott Wilkinson, home theater geek, and you better turn your light off in there.
Well, you realize, of course, that there are virtually no projectionists anymore. There was nobody up there. You know, this is all automatic these days.
Well, there's got to be some. Go ask the popcorn person to turn it off then.
Well, I wanted to, for sure. But I had already started my level measurement. You know what? When I go to the movies, I take my sound pressure level meter, my SPL meter.
Yeah.
And I measure the sound. And by the way,
such a geek.
I'm so geeky, I know. I'm such a geek.
And was it loud?
It was really loud. In fact, it was over 7 dB louder than reference level.
Oh, so the theater was blowing it.
The theater was blowing it in 2 ways. And I made a complaint about it, and I was unable to see the manager about it because they were busy with something else, I guess.
Just what they want. Some guy, excuse me, but you know, you're 7 dB over reference level. I think you really ought to consider turning it down a little bit.
That's right. Well,
they know it's teenagers want it loud, you know.
Yeah, and it was loud. It was really loud.
Is it
really
dangerously
fun.
loud? I mean, is that bad for your, I guess it would be, right?
Yeah, it can. I think it is. You know, it's 2 hours of exposure. And OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, specifies that you don't want to be over 80 or 85 dB for 8 hours, which I think is too loud. I think that rule is unreasonable.
So you might, if you're going with kids or you want to protect your own hearing, you might want to wear some earplugs.
I sure would.
Are there? This actually is a good question. Are there earplugs that don't just
yes,
but actually preserve the sonic quality and just reduce the level?
Yep. There are, but they aren't cheap. Basically, you have to get custom molded earplugs.
Oh, forget about it. Okay.
And that's pretty expensive.
That's a lot. I have those, of course, for professional reasons, but they're
right,
expensive.
exactly. I do too. But they're very expensive.
You have to go to an audiologist.
They're often called musicians' earplugs, and a lot of symphony players wear them.
Yeah.
Because they do exactly as you say. They reduce the level without changing the spectral profile very much. It's a little bit changed still because bass, low frequencies come in not only through the ear but through the body as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you do tend to hear a little more bass when you've got these earplugs in relative to the mids and highs. But if you're a symphony player and you're, you know, particularly say in the woodwinds and you're right behind the trumpets or right in front of the trumpets, you really want to protect your hearing.
Well, I want to see this movie, but I don't want to hurt my hearing. So
take earplugs. But for you, there is now a Dolby Cinema in San Francisco.
Oh, good.
At the Metreon, and I highly recommend seeing it there.
The Metreon's always been kind of a forerunner of the high-tech stuff. They have an IMAX there as well.
They do, and it'll probably be in 3D there, but I would go see it at Dolby Cinema. Dolby, as a company, is based in San Francisco, and I'm really surprised they didn't have a Dolby Cinema there before. Yeah, exactly.
Scott Wilkinson, you'll find his work at the AVS Forums.
Including my review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
AVSforums.com. And you'll also find his podcast. What day do you do that? For Thursday?
Thursdays 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific.
On TWiT, TWiT.tv/HTG. And you can even watch it live if you want on Thursday afternoons. That's my podcast network. Disclaimer, I'm plugging myself and Scott. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.